Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. As always, I'm very excited to introduce our guest to you. Before I do, I want to let you know what you're watching. You're watching Truer MU, your source for videos and information about the creative life of the mind. You can find us on YouTube at Truer MU, and you can find me at adamthelearningcoach.com. As always, there's a story behind my guest. As you know, I'm a piano teacher, and we teach at our school here in Atlanta at Willow Music. And one of my students had a mom who brought him every day. And one time I happened to notice on her email that her email was overwhelmedbody.com. And I thought, ooh, that sounds really interesting. I wonder what that could be about. I'm interested. I feel like I have an overwhelmed body. So I checked her out, and I was rather startled by her story. On her website, it says, although I've had a functional yoga practice since 2001, it was in 2014 that yoga became my lifeline. In a matter of minutes, I went from being a verbose, agile performance artist and adventurer to a person who could not speak, could not read, could barely control the right side of her body. So our guest is going to tell us all about that right now. Bree Hibbs-Kenny is a movement facilitator in Atlanta, Georgia. She is certified as an integrated flow yoga teacher, a certified facilitator with the Center for Trauma and Embodiment, Justice Research Institute, and a certified somatic attachment therapist. Bree Hibbs-Kenny, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So I want to talk about several things. I want to talk about your life before the stroke, what it was like during the stroke, and what your life's been like after. Do you have a preference on which one we do first?
No.
Well, let's start with who you may have recovered fully. I have no idea, but who were you before?
Um, Before the stroke, I was a performance artist. That's what I like to call myself. Other people call me a comedian. Apparently, people like to laugh at me. So do I. So I was a performer, and I was very bodily. I was a dancer. As a child, I was a ballerina for years of my life. And then I kept going back to the stage. And when I found the stage again as a performer, I was very in my body, but not um, really aware of my body. I was just kind of living through my body, but not really in my body, if that makes any sense.
Well, can I try to explain?
Mhm.
In my experience working in the Feldenkrais method, I've noticed there are some people who naturally have a lot of agility, a lot of ability. They've integrated their movement, but they never had to consciously integrate it. So they're able to do many things, but they don't know how they do them. And we see this with pianists all the time. Amazing pianists are sometimes rotten teachers because they have no idea how they do what they do. Does this describe you?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I've always been very flexible, very, movement oriented. So I could do amazing things with my body, but I wasn't really aware of when my body was saying no to the movement that I was forcing on it. Um, and it's baffling to me now to look back at that and see that. And I just noticed through my current work that a lot of people are moving their bodies or forcing their body to do certain things that their body's saying no, 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 no. And you have to quiet your body and your mind in order to hear that bodily talking. It doesn't speak to you in language. So now looking back, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I did that to this body. But I was being a ballerina or another type of trained dancing, you you will your body to do things that your body may not be ready for, but
Yes. I played for ballet dancers for many years, and I mean, you're taught from the age of 3 or 4 to do this,
Yeah,
and you know that you have a short career. You're going to be done by the time you're 25 or 30, and if you want to make a go at this, you'd better do what you're told.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So when you say you look back to see, do you have videos you watch that make you cringe, or is it simply your memories?
It's just my memories. I mean, I
Okay.
do have videos, but I would never watch
Oh, so
them.
you've divorced yourself entirely from this thing that you used to do?
Um, yeah, I guess you could say it like that. I would say I've lived it, I've done it, it's in the past. Um, it's something that I don't really have a relationship with that part of me. That person lived, died, and is, you know, is where she wants to lie, I guess. Um, and I've always been somebody who doesn't like watching myself because I'm hypercritical. And so I'm like, oh, I should have said this, I should have done this, oh, I should have tweaked it here, and I just don't do that anyway.
Well, let's take advantage of that because I'm really curious. Can you give us an example of something you might have done in the past that now seems like a mistake or ridiculous, or how could I have?
Ooh, well, um, you mean physically, emotionally? What are you talking
Hey,
about? All
we
of the
got
above.
time. We got time. Go for it.
Um, I tended to write all of my emotional stuff down. I still write a lot, but I would write it and then turn it into a big joke and put it on the stage. And that's kind of putting unresolved issues up for everybody to clap, laugh, or not. And also could be a little uncomfortable for the audience as well. And it's a lot different to put up a resolved issue up on the stage because there's solution and there's this recovered person coming up. To not have that resolution and put it up on stage like that makes me like, oh, I mean, you live and you learn, but I was very much like, this is my stuff. Now laugh or clap or give me approval outside world. And now I'm like, you're
Well,
never going to get what you're looking for from somebody from outside source,
would you agree that this is stand-up comedy? I mean, that's essentially what it is, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
got, I mean, I don't want to, I don't know what's going on in other people's bodies. I only know.
But that was what was going on for you. You put unresolved stuff out there, and you had to live it physically as well as talk it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that was my way of processing was definitely put it out there and hope that that audience approval would somehow fill this gaping hole that we all have for one reason or another, but like this need for something really meaningful and purposeful. And I felt like no amount of applause, no amount of people in the room, no, it was never enough.
Mm.
And now I know that that can never be fulfilled with anything outside of,
Well,
I mean, yeah.
let's talk about how you got there. Now, I know from my very brief reading on strokes that there are two major types, ischemic and hemorrhagic. Which type did you have?
Mine was achievement.
Okay, so you had the more common type, which was a blockage of an artery or a vein. And all people are different, so a stroke is going to affect everyone different, and all strokes are different because they occur in different parts of the brain. So everyone's going to have a unique experience with a stroke, as morbid as that might come across. Um, Talk about your stroke, please.
It's hard for me to talk about it because I was in it. The people directly surrounding me know more about the details, the medical jargon surrounding it. I was not present for any of that, so I don't know. But um, I remember feeling something. I was talking to my best friend about a week before, and I was talking to her, and I was like, I can't keep going like this. Something's gonna break at some point. And that was a week before it happened, which is, kind of crazy. But then I felt like my arm was getting numb, and I started talking to my husband about my arm, and I thought I was telling him my arm was going numb, but he said I wasn't making any sense, and he saw the entire right side of my body just go limp. And luckily, he knew what it was, called 911 immediately, and they got to me in a very short amount of time. And I went into the hospital. They apparently asked him if they could do this weird thing, like some experimental thing, and he said yes. And so they went in my leg with this clot busting whatever, and they went up to my brain and busted the clots that were in my brain. Then I woke up, and it was really surreal. Like, I had no idea what I was doing in the hospital. Apparently they started asking me people's names, and I was like, oh yeah, that's, my husband's name is Sam, and I was calling him Calvin, but I was like, oh yeah, that's Calvin. Like, it was just normal. I don't know. So I was, trying to, I don't know, I was trying to do the right thing. Like, they would ask me questions, and I would like search for an answer. And I remember just wanting to get that A, like, oh, I know, me, And yeah, so I remember that. And I remember getting released and going to the OT and speech therapist. And a lot of people told me I was okay. And I was like, I am not okay. Like, I am so not okay. But I think they were kind of, I don't know. But I think they were comparing, like, can I live my life? Yes. Okay, check. But I felt like I couldn't live my life because I didn't even know who I was or what I was doing.
Were you fully functional in terms of movement at that point?
I don't think so. They
Well,
thought I was good enough to let me out into the world. But I had trouble with my right side. I couldn't read. I couldn't really talk. I could talk, but I couldn't find the words, and I was slurring, and I was really frustrated by how incapacitated I felt, but I apparently didn't look like I felt.
I don't want to interject someone else's experience into yours. If you don't mind, though, I'd like to make a comparison. A man named Ron Smith wrote a book called The Defiant Mind about his stroke. And one of the points he made was that stroke victims, typically no one is listening to your stories. There was no one who was interested in the subjective experience of what was happening in the brain. Was that your experience?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Also on a spiritual side of it, I felt like as I was going out, I felt, and I don't know if this is my body, brain, or the divine, but I felt like I was part of everything. Like I could feel the soil and the roots going into it, and I was a part of the roots and the soil as we birthed grass. I mean, it was surreal. And so when I came back, I was really angry because I was like, why am I back here? I don't want to be here. Like, what is this? What kind of, you know, sickness am I put back into? Because that was so, so, uh, tangible. I could feel it in my body. Like everything was just a part of everything. And I was very, very angry. So both. I mean, nobody wanted to hear that part of the story, but also nobody wanted to hear about the physicality of it.
Are you familiar with Jill Bolte Taylor?
Mm-mm.
Jill Bolte Taylor was a neuroscientist who had a stroke and was fortunate enough to pay attention to her stroke as she had it. Took her 8 years to recover. She did a TED talk, and she
Yeah.
was talking about this exact thing. What she said was that as the left side of her brain shut down, the right side, which is very much in the present, provided her a sense of euphoria and in the moment that it sounds very much like you're talking about.
What's the name of her book?
My Stroke of Insight.
Yes. My husband, my best friend, my mom all read it while I was going through this recovery because they were all like, oh my gosh. And I was like, stop reading. I can't read. I was so mad about it. And now I don't really want somebody else's perspective
Mhm.
because it's mine. And I don't know. So
Is it
I
okay
don't,
that I brought that up?
oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I also read a lot of what's his name? Oliver Sacks, I think.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And he has one about strokes, and I'm like, not reading it. Because I have my own relationship with it.
Hmm.
And it's very much I don't know, it supports me.
Well,
So I want to keep it that way.
will you talk about this aftermath, this experience you went through?
Ooh.